The South African Police Service Amendment Bill has been approved by Cabinet and will now be published for comment. The amendments are largely to bring the Police Act, passed in 1995, in line with the Constitution, adopted in 1996. Now, the new amendments are expected to overcome shortcomings in the legal framework governing the police service. Notification of authorities for public gatherings, for example, will no longer be required, a law declared unconstitutional. Let's speak to Themba Masuku, who is a program manager for Police Watchdog, the African Policing Civilian Oversight Forum. As we continue to unpack, Themba, just some of the other developments that are key with this Police Services Amendment Bill. I see here now the stricter vetting of police recruits. That surely must be quite a big issue that we need addressed.
Thank you very much, Michelle. The release of the South African Amendments Bill, it's a very welcome development. I think it sets a very important tone with regards to really looking at the SAPS bill, particularly in regards to huge issues around professionalization, demilitarization of the police, and specifically on the issue that you raise around the recruitment. That we're very happy that the stricter measures that are being introduced to make sure that whoever gets into the SAPS environment, there is nothing in that person in terms of placing the organization into disrepute. Yeah. So it's a really positive development.
The other issue here around the notification of authorities for public gatherings, what's the thinking behind that, Themba? I mean, is it not a safety issue on both sides for police preparation and for the safety of perhaps people who might be caught up in the crossfire, for lack of a better term, the crossfire of large gatherings?
I think, remember, this provision is currently provided for in the Regulations of Gatherings Act. But the important thing, I think, with this amendment bill is that it is in line with the jurisprudence that has been created by the Constitutional Court, which has basically said that it's not unlawful for anybody to get involved in a protest without providing a notice. Yeah. That is very important, because then it guarantees people's rights to a constitutionally entrenched right. So police cannot take away that. And I think the amendment bill basically confirms what the Constitutional Court has provided for as part of its jurisprudence.
Yeah. Themba, you mentioned this issue at the start of our conversation. Just unpack it a bit more for us. The professionalization and the demilitarization of the SAPS. What does this mean in action?
What it means is that if one looks at what the NDP provides, NDP basically as a vision of the country, envisage a police service that is professional, professionally managed, and that provides the service in a professional manner. So the SAPS Amendment Bill takes that on board, and I think that is very important, that we're going to see a number of changes regarding to management, like we already mentioned, around issues of recruitment, that anybody who comes into the SAPS environment, it's properly screened. We're going to see issues around, for example, the disciplinary issues of senior management. We're going to see possibly changes around the recruitment of the National Commissioner. So there are positive things in this bill that we think are going to change the way that South African Police Services conduct its business.
So those are some of the positives, Themba. Let's unpack some of what has been brought up as a grey area, particularly as it relates to the use of lethal force for the protection of property and of life. I understand the grey area comes about if, for example, there is a riot and police do arrive on the scene. They are not allowed the use of lethal force then in that context to protect property? Just clarify that for us.
So in terms of the regulations of gathering, the current legislation, it provides for police to use lethal force to protect property. But in this amendment, it provides that lethal force can be used to protect people and property. So the two things must be mutually inclusive. So in other words, police cannot use lethal force in the absence of a threat to human beings to protect property. That is a gray area because it's going to create unnecessary problems, particularly regarding to when police officers should actually use lethal force, because lethal force can only be used when there's a threat to life, and that's an internationally standard. Property cannot be used, property cannot be protected at the expense of human beings. So that grey area, which will be very interesting when we do see the bill, exactly how it has been crafted in the bill, and you'll be able to respond to it.
So Themba, now with the bill being approved by Cabinet, what kind of education does this now mean will need to surely come into play for members of the SAPS?
The fact that it's been approved by Cabinet, so now the bill now is going to be gazetted, and the public is going to be invited to provide opportunity to make comments on the bill. Obviously, while the bill is still being debated and being finalized, we don't expect we're going to see major changes happening until the bill is passed. But I think already there are positives that perhaps the police may be taking on board. Particularly, the use of force is very contentious. It's very controversial. At times it's unnecessary. We're still reeling on issues of marijuana that could have been avoided if there was proper guidance. So we think that the bill sets a very important tone for police officers to start to realign themselves, particularly around issues that actually work, and begin to remove things that do not work.
Yeah. Well, Themba Masuku, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM Report, speaking to us there as the SA Police Services Amendment Bill is approved by Cabinet.